Why was she standing there, frozen, when every instinct told her to move? The hallway was narrow. Concrete walls breathed back the echo of footsteps. Her hand hovered just above the rifle strap across her chest, but it wasn't the weapon that weighed her down. It was the silence, that brutal silence before something breaks. She tried to push her way past him, past the obstacle in front of her. But his swift response made her step back fast, her boots scraping against the floor, the sound loud enough to make her flinch. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't threaten, he just stopped her. And in that moment, for reasons she couldn't admit even to herself, she froze again. Her name was Elena, Cawson Sable, 29 years old, decorated on paper, invisible in the room. And that's where this story really begins. Because what you see from the outside is simple. A soldier in uniform, another operative blocking her way, and the tension between them. But what you don't see, the truth buried deep in her chest, is the reason why she was on this mission at all. She didn't tell them the whole truth, not in the briefing, not in the dossiers, and not in the quiet looks exchanged across the table. There was something she hadn't revealed, not yet. The air smelled faintly of oil and dust. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. On the other side of that hallway was a steel door, the kind you'd find in bunkers that were never meant to be breached. Behind it lay a control room, and a man whose name no one on the team spoke out loud. The team thought this mission was about intelligence, about intercepting signals and tracking shipments, but for Elena, it was about something else entirely. Her chest rose and fell with steady breaths, though inside her mind raced. She remembered the briefing room hours earlier, the way the others barely glanced at her. They knew her record. They saw the commendations stapled to her file, but paper can't erase doubt, not in a room full of men who had watched each other bleed and who didn't know her story. She stood alone at the end of that long wooden table, maps sprawled across its surface, satellite images pinned by metal clips. She asked a question about the exfil route. No one had answered. Her words had hung in the air like smoke, ignored until the commander redirected. She felt the sting of being invisible. But that sting, it wasn't new. Back in training years ago, she had carried the same weight. When she outshot half her class on the sniper range, they said it was luck. When she clocked the fastest sim in urban CQB, they said it was because she had lighter gear. Every accomplishment cut in half by doubt. And now, years later, it was still there. That same doubt, lingering in the way people looked through her instead of at her. But tonight was different. Tonight she carried a reason heavier than doubt. Her brother. His face flickered through her thoughts like a shadow at the edge of a light. He had worn the same uniform once. He had walked into a mission almost identical to this one, and he hadn't walked out. No body recovered, no explanations given, just folded flags and condolences. Elena never believed the official report. Something about it rang hollow, too clean, too packaged. And now, standing in that hallway, with a steel door ahead and a man blocking her path, she felt closer to the truth than she had in years. Her voice, when it finally broke the silence, was steady. Move. He shook his head, not defiant, measured. His eyes scanned her face like he was reading more than her words. And she wondered, did he know? Did he sense that beneath the mission brief, beneath the calculated orders, there was something personal burning inside her veins? The team had split into pairs, hallway sweep, stairwell cover, external perimeter. She and this man, Ortiz, had been assigned together. Random chance maybe, or maybe someone in command wanted to keep an eye on her. She didn't trust Ortiz, not yet. He had the kind of presence that filled a room, the kind of silence that felt heavier than noise. But as much as she wanted to shove past, she didn't, because his hand had risen, not to threaten, not to command, but to warn. He tapped his ear, the faintest gesture. She froze again. Static crackled through her comms. Then a voice, movement 2 floors above, stay sharp. She exhaled slowly, realizing how close she had been to making noise that could have given them away. Ortiz lowered his hand. His eyes softened just enough. She nodded tight, a silent admission that she understood. But beneath that nod, her chest ached with something else: frustration, embarrassment, and a flicker of something darker: fear. Not fear of the mission, fear of failing it. Because failure to her wasn't just about survival, it was about never finding the truth. Her boots shifted quietly across the concrete. The steel door loomed closer. She brushed her fingertips against the cool strap of her rifle, grounding herself. Every mission before this one had been about following orders, executing plans, playing her role. But this mission, this one was hers. She thought of her brother again. The last time she saw him was in a kitchen that smelled of coffee and rain. He had smiled that tired smile, the kind soldiers give their families when they don't want them to worry. She had hugged him harder than she ever admitted. And then, he was gone. Now, years later, she was chasing ghosts. The comms crackled again. "Clear the door." Ortiz looked at her, waiting, letting her lead. For the first time that night, she felt the shift, a small one but real. She stepped forward, palms brushing the frame, eyes narrowing at the hinges. Every sense heightened: the faint hum of electricity behind the wall, the cold bite of metal under her glove, the whisper of fabric as Ortiz shifted behind her. She knelt, scanning the base of the door. Wires, too clean to be natural. Her pulse quickened. A trap. She didn't speak it aloud. She just raised her hand, signaling Ortiz to hold. Then quietly she traced the wire with her eyes. It ran along the base into the wall, disappearing behind chipped plaster. She could almost hear her instructor's voice from years ago. The quiet details save your life. The loud mistakes take it away. She reached into her pouch, fingers finding the small cutter. Every breath slowed, every muscle tightened. She clipped the wire. The click echoed louder than it should have. Nothing happened. Silence. Then her lungs released. Ortiz's voice low: "Good eye." 2 words, that's all. But they landed heavier than the dozens of dismissive glances she had endured in briefing rooms. For the first time that night, she felt seen. And yet her chest still ached, because even in small victories, the shadow of her brother loomed. She whispered to herself, so quiet it was almost a prayer, "I'll find you, one way or another." Ortiz tilted his head as if he heard, but he didn't ask, he just readied his rifle. Together they pushed the door open. The room inside was dim, screens flickered, papers lay scattered, the air buzzed with the static hum of old machines. And at the center, on the table, a folder. Her pulse skipped. The same insignia, marked on the corner, that had been stamped on her brother's final report. Her throat tightened. She stepped closer. Her gloved hand trembled just slightly as it reached for the folder. The world seemed to shrink around her. No sounds, no breath, just the weight of paper waiting to be opened. And that was when the lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the room. The hum stopped. And a voice, unfamiliar, cold, echoed from somewhere in the shadows. "You shouldn't be here." Her blood turned to ice. Because the voice, it was Ortiz. It wasn't anyone from her team. It was someone else, someone who had been waiting. Someone who knew her. How do you know when a trap is meant for you, and not for the mission? That was the question pulsing in her veins as the room fell into darkness. 1 second, the flicker of monitors. The next, nothing but silence and her own breath in her ears. Elena froze. Her fingers still hovered inches from the folder on the table. She could feel the edges of the paper without even touching it, like it was radiating heat, like it was alive. Then the voice came again, low, unhurried. "You shouldn't be here." Every instinct screamed to drop, to draw, to fire. But training pressed harder. Don't move, don't reveal. Let the darkness settle. Listen. Ortiz's breath was somewhere to her left, controlled, steady. She couldn't see him, but she could feel his silence. Soldiers learned to read absence as much as presence. Her hand curled into a fist by her side. "Who's there?" Her voice was calm, but her throat burned. The reply came, closer now. "That depends. Who are you looking for?" Her stomach turned cold. The voice wasn't guessing, it was baiting. She had to remind herself. No one knew. She hadn't told the team. She hadn't even said his name aloud in months. But the way the words sliced through her chest, it felt like this stranger already knew the truth. Ortiz broke the silence with a sharp command. "Identify yourself." His voice cut through the dark like a blade. No answer. Instead, a soft scrape echoed across the floor, like a chair being pulled back. Her finger found the edge of her rifle's trigger guard, but firing blind was suicide. She whispered low, barely audible, "Light." Ortiz clicked a small tack lamp on his vest. A narrow beam cut through the black, shaky across broken papers and dust. The chair at the table was empty. No one. The voice had vanished. Her breath came shallow. She stepped forward, lamp following her movements. Shadows stretched long against the walls, warping into shapes that looked almost human before melting back into dark. Ortiz muttered under his breath, "This doesn't feel right." He wasn't wrong. Her boot nudged the chair. It was warm, someone had been there recently. The folder still lay on the table, untouched. Her eyes locked on it again. That insignia, the same crest burned into the last report she ever saw about her brother. She reached for it, heart pounding, every muscle tense. The pages inside whispered as she flipped them open. Photographs, grainy surveillance, names typed in harsh block letters. And then her stomach dropped. A photo. Her brother. Alive. Or at least that's what it looked like. The image was blurred, distant shot, but unmistakable. Same eyes, same posture, same scar across his temple from when they were kids and he'd fallen off his bike. Her throat closed. She had to grip the table to steady herself. Ortiz leaned over, his lamp cutting across the page. "Who is that?" She slammed the folder shut, too fast, too defensive. His eyes caught the move, but he didn't press. Not yet. Her pulse wouldn't slow. The photo burned into her mind. Alive, he might be alive. But before she could even process it, static ripped across the comms. Team Bravo status. Multiple contacts inbound. Repeat contacts inbound. Her body snapped back to the mission. Her personal storm shoved into a corner. "We have to move," she hissed. Ortiz grabbed the folder, slid it into his pack without a word. He didn't ask again. Not yet. They moved fast, silent. Out of the control room, down the hallway. The air felt heavier now, like the darkness was chasing them. Gunfire cracked in the distance, 2 floors up, echoes bouncing like thunder in a canyon. She tightened her grip on the rifle. Every shot above them reminded her of another mission, another sound of gunfire, the night her brother vanished. The building shook faintly with impacts. Dust rained from the ceiling in soft trickles. Ortiz kept pace beside her, quiet but watchful. He wasn't the type to fill silence with words, and right now, silence felt safer. They hit the stairwell. Concrete steps spiraled down. Voices echoed faintly from below, shouts in a language she didn't recognize. She raised her fist. "Halt." Both of them crouched against the wall, breaths held. Footsteps closer, heavy boots on stairs. She held up 2 fingers, then one more, 3 total. Ortiz nodded, already shifting his rifle. She whispered, barely audible, "Silent." 3 shadows stretched up the stairwell wall before the men even appeared. Armed, careless, talking too loud. Elena waited, breath sharp in her throat. Timing mattered more than aim. The first man rounded the corner. She was already there. One hand snapped his rifle down, the other striking his throat. He dropped without a sound, body caught before it hit the floor. Ortiz grabbed the second, knife flashing quick across the neck, muffling the gurgle before it could escape. The third froze, eyes wide. Her rifle barrel was already under his chin. She shook her head slowly, eyes locked on his. His breath came fast, terrified. He dropped his weapon. For a split second she saw him not as an enemy, but as someone's son, someone's brother, maybe even someone's father. His hands trembled. He whispered something she didn't understand. A prayer, maybe. Her finger twitched on the trigger, but something inside her stopped it. She pushed him down the stairs, silent command to run. His footsteps scrambled into the dark, fading fast. Ortiz gave her a hard look. That mercy might cost us. Her jaw tightened, or it might save us. They didn't argue, no time. The stairwell cleared into a long corridor, faint light glowing at the far end. And then her chest clenched. Voices again, familiar this time, the rest of their team. They burst into view, dusty, sweating, alive. But the sight didn't calm her, because in their eyes she saw something else. Fear. One of them, Sergeant Keane, grabbed her arm. His words came rushed, urgent. It's not just contacts. They knew we were coming, every step. This whole thing, it's a setup. Her stomach dropped. A setup. The voice in the dark, the folder left out in plain sight, the sudden blackout. It wasn't random. It was orchestrated. Ortiz swore under his breath. She didn't speak. Her mind raced back to the photo, to her brother's face staring up from that folder. Was it bait, a trick to pull her deeper? Or proof that he really was alive? Her team argued in sharp whispers around her. Plans, routes, escape options. She barely heard them. Because inside, her thoughts were spinning faster than bullets. If this was a setup, then whoever said it knew her story, knew what would stop her in her tracks. And that meant only one thing. Her brother's ghost wasn't just haunting her anymore. It was being used against her. She swallowed hard, the weight of realization pressing against her chest. And yet beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, a fire flickered. If they knew enough to set this trap, then they knew the truth she'd been searching for. And she was closer than ever to finding it. The corridor ahead stretched into the unknown. Dust, shadows, the distant rumble of gunfire still shaking the walls. Ortiz's voice broke through her storm. Elena, orders. Everyone looked at her, waiting. And for the first time, no one looked through her. No one dismissed her voice. The decision was hers. Her lips parted steady. We push forward. A beat of silence. Then nods, weapons raised, boots moving. The team followed her into the dark. And Elena, heart pounding, throat burning, knew one thing for certain. Whatever waited ahead, it wasn't just another mission. It was personal. What do you do when everyone finally looks to you, yet all you want is to run? That was the weight pressing on Elena's chest as her boots carried her forward. The corridor stretched out ahead, a tunnel of concrete and shadows, and for the first time that night, every soldier's eyes had turned to her for direction. She didn't ask for it, she hadn't even wanted it, but the silence after her words, "we push forward," had been filled not with doubt but with trust. A fragile kind of trust, maybe, the kind born out of desperation. Still, trust was trust, and now it was hers to carry. The air was heavy with dust and gunpowder. Every echo of their steps bounced back like a warning. Her hand flexed against the rifle grip, knuckles pale under her glove. She thought about the folder in Ortiz's pack, about the photograph buried inside, her brother's face, alive or maybe just bait. The thought cut both ways. If it was bait, she was being pulled into a game she couldn't control. If it was real, then everything she thought she lost wasn't lost after all. Either way, her chest ached. Behind her, Keane whispered, "We should have pulled out when we had the chance." His voice cracked, a man's fear wrapped in grit. Elena didn't turn, she just answered low, "There's no pulling out now." Her words hung heavy, and no one challenged them. They reached a junction. One hallway led deeper into the bunker. The other bent sharply left, toward the faint hum of machinery. She raised her hand, "Halt." Her eyes scanned both paths. One pulled her instinct, the other pulled her heart. Ortiz stepped up beside her. "We split." She shook her head instantly. "We stay together, splitting is what they want." He studied her for a beat, then gave a slow nod. His silence said he agreed. Or at least, he trusted her judgment more than his own right now. They moved left toward the hum. The air grew warmer, thick with the smell of oil and heat. Machines churned behind the walls, generators maybe, or something older. She tried to picture the layout in her head, the blueprints she'd scanned during the briefing. But the memory blurred. Stress twisted lines into shadows. Ortiz broke the silence with a quiet question. "That picture, in the folder, who was it?" Her chest tightened. She hadn't expected him to wait this long before asking. She kept walking, voice flat. "It doesn't matter." He didn't press, but she felt the weight of his eyes, the way he studied her like he already knew the answer. She hated that, hated being seen. Because the truth was tearing her apart inside. Her brother, Daniel, had always been the reason she put on the uniform. Not out of duty, not out of country, out of him. When their parents died, it had been Daniel who raised her, Daniel who carried her through. He was more than a brother. He was proof that she wasn't alone. And when he never came back from his mission, she told herself she was serving in his name, carrying the torch he dropped. But deep down it wasn't service, it was search. She'd been searching ever since. Now that search had teeth again. And it scared her, because obsession looks a lot like purpose when you're standing in the dark. The corridor widened into a chamber. Pipes crisscrossed overhead, dripping condensation that tapped against the floor in slow, rhythmic beats. The hum was louder here, vibrating through the soles of their boots. The team spread out, rifles raised. Shadows danced across the walls, long and shifting. Keane muttered, "Feels like a tomb." No one disagreed. Elena's eyes caught movement, a glint of metal tucked in the far corner. She signaled. The team froze. She moved closer, step by step. It wasn't a trap this time. It was a camera. Old, scratched, but the tiny red light blinked alive, watching. She stared into it for a moment, her reflection warped in the lens. And then a voice, the same one from the dark, crackled through hidden speakers. "Still chasing ghosts, aren't you?" Her blood ran cold. The team shifted uneasily, rifles swinging toward shadows, but there was no source. Just the echo of that voice filling every corner of the chamber. Elena forced her voice steady. "Who are you?" A pause, then, "You already know." Her throat tightened, because part of her did. The cadence, the edge of familiarity, the cruel calmness woven into the tone. Her stomach twisted. She knew who it sounded like. But she couldn't say it, not yet. Keane cursed under his breath. Ortiz glanced at her, waiting for her to speak, but she said nothing. The voice continued, smooth as glass. "You want answers, keep walking, but remember, some truths cut deeper than lies." Then the speakers hissed, cut off, leaving silence thick and suffocating. Her chest heaved once, twice. Ortiz leaned close, whisper sharp, "You know something, say it." She shook her head, jaw locked. "Not now." Because if she said it aloud, if she gave voice to the suspicion clawing at her gut, it would break her. And right now, she couldn't afford to break. The team pressed on, tighter formation now, eyes scanning every corner. The paranoia clung like smoke. Every drip of condensation, every echo of their own steps, every shadow stretched too long, it all felt like eyes. Minutes blurred. Then the corridor spilled into another chamber, this one larger, lit by a single hanging bulb swinging gently like it had been disturbed moments ago. Beneath it sat a table. Another folder. Her pulse thrashed. Ortiz muttered, "They're playing with us." But Elena already knew. This wasn't just a mission anymore. This was theater, a stage set for her. She stepped forward, ignoring the knot in her throat, and flipped the folder open. This time, the photo wasn't of her brother. It was of her. Training days, target practice, even an image of her alone at the graveside years ago, flowers in hand. Private moments, moments no one else should have seen. Her knees almost buckled. Keane whispered, horrified, "They've been watching you." Her stomach twisted with shame and rage. All those years of silence, all those nights she thought she was alone in her grief, someone had been there, recording, cataloging. Why? Her hands shook as she slammed the folder shut. That was when gunfire erupted. From above, from behind, muffled but close. The team scattered, rifles up, adrenaline spiking. The bulb overhead swung harder, shadows lashing the walls like blades. Shouts echoed through the bunker, foreign words, boots pounding. They were surrounded. Ortiz barked positions. The team snapped into cover, barrels aimed at every entry point. Elena crouched behind a broken console, heart hammering, her breath loud in her ears. But even as the firefight closed in, even as the first shots snapped through the chamber walls, her mind was still stuck on that folder. Those pictures, that voice. The way it said, "You already know." Her gut screamed the unthinkable. That her brother, her Daniel, wasn't just alive. He was here. And maybe he wasn't the same man anymore. What if the enemy you've been hunting is the same person you've been searching for? That question gnawed at Elena's chest as bullets tore the silence apart. The chamber lit up with flashes. Muzzle fire stuttered against the walls. Sparks rained from ricochets. The bulb above swung violently until a bullet snapped it loose, plunging the room into strobing chaos. Light, dark, light again. Elena pressed her back against the console. Splinters of concrete chipped away just inches from her face. Her pulse roared in her ears. Suppressing, Ortiz's voice boomed over the gunfire. He leaned out, rifle barking, every round steady, controlled. Keane dove beside her, breath ragged. "We're boxed in." His eyes were wide, fear curling his words. She gritted her teeth. Fear was natural, but panic killed faster than bullets. She raised her rifle, inhaled slow, exhaled steady, and peeked. 3 shadows moved at the chamber's mouth, firing blind into the room. She squeezed, one dropped. Shifted, another burst of fire. She dropped the second. The third ducked back, shouting orders she couldn't understand. Ortiz shouted, "We need to break out." Her mind spun. The corridors, the junctions, the wires she'd cut earlier. Every piece of the bunker folded into a mental map. She pictured it like blueprints in her head, lines and angles. Then it hit her. "The right flank pipes overhead," she shouted. Ortiz didn't question. He tilted his rifle up, firing not at the men but at the rusting pipe cluster above them. Sparks burst. Metal groaned. Steam exploded down like a tidal wave, hissing white across the chamber. The air turned into fog, burning hot and choking thick. The enemy's fire stuttered. Confusion, shouts. "Move," Elena barked. The team surged. Boots pounded, rifles up, shapes vanishing into the steam. Through the blur, she felt hands shove her forward. Ortiz, steady, relentless. Keane coughed hard, stumbling but alive. They burst through the chamber's far exit, into another corridor. Cool air rushed against her sweat-slicked face, carrying the metallic stink of blood and rust. Behind them, gunfire faded into muffled echoes. They'd bought seconds, maybe a minute. Her chest heaved, her eyes burned from the steam, but they were moving, still alive. Keane cursed between breaths. "They're on every side. How the hell did they know our route? Elena swallowed hard. She already knew the answer, because this wasn't an ambush thrown together. This was precision. Someone had fed the enemy there every step. Her brother's face flashed in her mind again. That photo, that voice, you already know. Ortiz glanced at her mid-run, reading the storm in her eyes. He didn't ask. Not yet, but she knew the question was coming. They reached another stairwell, spiraling upward. The air here was colder, dripping with moisture. Concrete walls closed in tight. Elena slowed, raising her hand. Quiet. The team halted. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of water echoed like a clock. She tilted her head, there beneath the dripping boots, slow, deliberate, coming down the stairs above. She held 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. The first silhouette appeared at the top landing. She fired once, clean, the man dropped. But before his body even hit the steps, another voice cut through the stairwell. Calm, cold, familiar. Elena. Her stomach dropped. The rifle almost slipped from her hands. Because the voice, it wasn't memory anymore. It was real. Daniel. Her brother. Keane froze mid-step. Ortiz's eyes snapped toward her, stunned. She couldn't breathe. Her throat closed around his name. Daniel's shadow appeared at the top, framed by the dim red glow of emergency lights. His rifle was slung but untouched. His stance wasn't hostile. He just stood there, watching her. Alive. Her knees almost buckled. For years she'd carried the grief of losing him. For years she'd wondered if maybe, just maybe, it had all been a lie. And now here he was. Her lips parted, trembling. Daniel. The team shifted nervously behind her. Rifles raised, unsure, the tension sharp enough to snap. Ortiz growled low, careful. Daniel's voice carried down the stairwell, smooth as steel. I told them you'd come. I told them you wouldn't stop looking. Her chest ached. The words weren't reunion, they weren't warmth. They were measured. Like a man who had already chosen a side. She whispered more to herself than to him, why? His eyes caught the dim light. They weren't the same eyes she remembered, harder, colder. Because truth doesn't live where you think it does. His voice echoed, chilling. And sometimes survival requires betrayal. Keane hissed, what the hell is this? Elena lifted her hand, stopping him. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Her whole world was on those stairs. She took a step forward, rifle lowered, voice cracking. Daniel, it's me. It's Elena. Whatever this is, you don't have to. His words cut her off like a blade. You don't understand. You were never meant to. The stairwell shook with distant gunfire again. The enemy was closing in. Time was snapping at their heels. But Elena couldn't move, couldn't think past the weight of his face in front of her. Ortiz's hand touched her shoulder, grounding her, his voice low, urgent. We don't have time for this. Her throat burned. She couldn't look away. Daniel took one slow step down. His presence filled the stairwell, heavy, inescapable. And then his words landed like a hammer. Leave now, Elena. Take your team. If you don't, you won't leave at all. Her heart shattered. Because it wasn't a warning from a brother. It was a threat from a stranger. Ortiz pulled her back, voice sharp. Decision now. Her eyes blurred with tears she refused to let fall. This was the moment she had wanted for years. The moment she dreamed of. Proof that her brother lived. Proof that she hadn't lost him completely. And yet here he was, not her brother, not anymore. She raised her rifle, hands trembling. Daniel's eyes narrowed, no fear, just sorrow. For a long, agonizing second, neither moved. Then shouts echoed from below, enemy boots, dozens of them, time snapped. Ortiz shouted, move. The team surged past her, up the stairs, firing to cover their retreat. Elena backed away, eyes still locked on Daniel. Her lips moved, voice breaking in a whisper, I'll come back for you. For the first time his face softened, just slightly, almost human. And then the stairwell filled with smoke and fire. They ran. Her boots pounded each step like a drumbeat of grief. Every shot behind her echoed like another piece of her heart cracking. Daniel was alive, but he wasn't hers anymore. What if the ghost you've been chasing your whole life turned out to be real, but carrying a knife aimed at your heart? That was the thought clawing at Elena's chest as the stairwell door slammed behind them. The squad spilled into a wide maintenance hall, coughing, weapons raised, nerves frayed. The corridor stretched long and bare, humming with the faint vibration of generators beneath. Red emergency lights blinked overhead in slow, rhythmic pulses. The entire bunker seemed to breathe with them. Inhale, exhale, like the walls themselves were alive. Elena pressed her palms against the cold concrete. She needed something solid, something steady, but even the walls betrayed her. Her brother's face wouldn't leave her mind. The lines around his eyes harder now, the weight in his voice. Leave now or you won't leave at all. Her brother wasn't warning her, he was threatening her. Talk to me, Ortiz demanded, his voice low, harsh. He positioned himself at the far end of the hall, rifle up, eyes scanning, always vigilant, always steady. But his jaw was tight, he'd seen it too. Elena shook her head, voice hoarse. It's him, it's Daniel. Keane let out a strained laugh, bitter and sharp. He kicked the wall. That was your brother, the same guy we've been chasing ghosts about for weeks. He's supposed to be dead, Elena. Her hands curled into fists. I know what I saw. Ortiz's eyes flicked between them, measuring every word. He was alive, but the way he spoke. He's not on our side, Keane spat, cutting in. Hell, maybe he never was. Elena rounded on him, fury burning hot through the confusion. Don't you dare. Keane's lip curled. Don't what? Say what you don't want to admit. He looked you in the eye and told you to leave or die. That doesn't sound like family to me. Her rifle shook in her hands. She wanted to scream, to shut him up, but Ortiz's voice cut through before the fire consumed her. Enough! The word cracked like a whip. His eyes locked on Elena. What matters is this: if he's alive, then he knows this bunker inside out. He knows our moves, which means he's already 3 steps ahead of us. Silence pressed in. The truth hurt, but it was truth nonetheless. Elena swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. Then we changed the game. Ortiz tilted his head, listening. We stop reacting, she continued, packing the hall, her boots echoing against the concrete. We stop following the routes he expects. We move where he doesn't want us to. Keane muttered, easier said than done. Elena spun on him, fury simmering into cold focus. You think I can't read him? That man in there. He may be colder, harder, but he's still my brother. I know how he thinks. And I promise you, he didn't show himself unless he wanted me to see him, which means there's a reason. Ortiz's brow furrowed. A reason beyond trying to kill us. She hesitated, her chest tightened. Maybe, or maybe he's trying to send me a message. Keane barked a laugh, bitter. Oh, come on. You think this is some twisted family reunion? The guy's working with the enemy. Wake up, Elena. Her jaw clenched. She wanted to hit him. Instead, she turned to Ortiz. You saw it in his eyes. He's not just another enemy soldier. He's not just following orders. Ortiz studied her carefully, his silence heavy. Finally, he said, either way, we need to survive long enough to find out. The words grounded her. Survival first, answers later. A distant boom rattled the hall. Dust shook from the ceiling. The enemy was coming, methodical, relentless. Ortiz gestured toward a side door. Move, we need another way up. They slipped inside. The room was cramped, filled with old machinery humming low, wires draped like veins across the ceiling. The stench of oil and rust stung their noses. Elena's flashlight beam cut through the gloom, sweeping across pipes and steel. Keane slammed the door shut behind them, breathing hard. We're trapped in a rat maze. Elena scanned quickly. Her fingers traced the wall until they found a ladder bolted into the corner, leading up into darkness. "There," she said. Ortiz nodded. He slung his rifle, started climbing. Keane followed reluctantly, muttering curses under his breath. Elena brought up the rear, her muscles burning as she pulled herself upward. The rungs creaked under their weight. Dust fell into her eyes. Halfway up, a sound froze her in place. Metal tapping, rhythmic above them. She stopped breathing, listened. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps again. Ortiz froze too, looking down. He mouthed a question, "Daniel." Her throat went dry. That pattern, she remembered it. As kids, they'd knock on pipes to talk between their rooms. A secret code, a rhythm only they knew. 3-3, the signal for "I see you." Her heart lurched, it couldn't be. Keane hissed from below, "What's happening? Why are we stopping?" Elena ignored him. Her hand hovered on the rung, trembling. She tapped back. 2 knocks, 1 long. Their childhood answer, then say something. Silence. Then above, the same 3 knocks again. "I see you." Tears pricked her eyes. It was him. It had to be, but why? Why play this game now? Ortiz whispered down, "It's a trap." Elena's voice cracked, "Or it's him trying to reach me." Keane groaned, "For God's sake." But before the argument could ignite, a deafening explosion ripped through the hall below. The floor shook violently. Dust and smoke billowed upward, swallowing their ladder in choking gray. "Move," Ortiz shouted. They climbed fast, lungs burning, hands slipping on rust-slick rungs. The ladder rattled under the shockwaves. Finally, Ortiz shoved open a hatch above, pulling himself out. Keane scrambled after him, dragging himself into the unknown. Elena was last. She hauled herself through, gasping as fresh, damp air hit her face. They emerged into a cavernous chamber, massive, echoing, lined with old fuel tanks and thick support beams. The smell of mildew and gasoline filled the air. Faint shafts of light pierced from grates far above, but most of the room was shrouded in shadow. And in the middle of it, a figure stood waiting. Daniel. Her stomach dropped. He was alone. No guards, no backup, just him. Ortiz swung his rifle up instantly. "Hands where I can see them." Daniel didn't move, didn't even flinch. His voice echoed across the chamber, calm, steady. "I told you to leave, Elena." Her breath hitched. "Why?" she demanded, stepping forward despite Ortiz's warning grip on her arm. "Why show yourself? Why knock our code? Why any of this?" For the first time, something flickered in Daniel's expression. Not cruelty, not rage, something else. He spoke softly. "Because if you don't walk away now, you'll learn the truth, and the truth will destroy you." The words struck harder than any bullet. Ortiz's voice thundered back. "Drop your weapon, or I will put you down." Daniel's eyes never left hers. "Elena," he said, almost pleading, "don't make me prove it." Her chest ached, her world tilted, her finger twitched on her trigger. The air between them stretched taut, thinner and thinner, until it felt like it would snap. And then, from the shadows, another set of boots echoed, more figures emerging, not soldiers this time. Civilians, dirty, hollow-eyed, shackled prisoners. Dozens of them. Elena's breath caught. Daniel's voice hardened, sharp as steel. "Choose, Elena. Save your mission or save them." And in that moment she realized her brother wasn't just alive. He was holding her morality hostage. What do you do when every choice before you feels like betrayal? Elena's boots felt glued to the concrete as the prisoners shuffled forward, chains dragging, eyes wide with terror. Their clothes were torn, faces gaunt, lips cracked from thirst. They looked like they hadn't seen sunlight in weeks, maybe months. Her rifle trembled in her hands. Ortiz swore under his breath, keeping his weapon leveled at Daniel. "What the hell is this?" Daniel raised one hand slightly, almost in surrender, but his other stayed loose near the pistol holstered at his side. His voice cut across the chamber, even, deliberate. "This," he said, nodding toward the prisoners, "is what you're not supposed to see." Elena's throat tightened. "Prisoners here, why?" Daniel's gaze flicked to her, softer now. "Ask your command. Ask the people who sent you here. Do you think they told you the whole truth?" Keane stepped forward, jaw clenched, eyes blazing. "Don't listen to him. He's manipulating you." He jabbed his rifle toward Daniel. "I've seen his type before. He's playing the long con. Enemy agents do this all the time, use civilians like pawns to buy sympathy." But Elena couldn't tear her eyes away from the faces staring back at her. A girl, no more than 10, clung to a woman's arm. An old man limped, dragging his chain, his eyes sunken yet still pleading. Each pair of eyes was a blade against her chest. Her voice came out raw. "Why are they here, Daniel?" He hesitated. That tiny pause spoke louder than words. Finally he said, "Because war isn't about soldiers anymore. It's about leverage. These people," he gestured toward the prisoners, "they're bargaining chips, hostages for negotiations no one tells you about." Ortiz stiffened. "That's propaganda." Daniel's eyes burned with something fierce. "Is it? Or is it the truth they don't want you to face?" The silence that followed was unbearable. Elena could hear the faint hum of the generators, the dripping of water somewhere in the shadows, even the ragged breaths of the captives. Her heart pounded. Keane broke it, spitting venom. "I don't care if these people are real or staged. Our orders are clear. We finish the mission, we get the data, and we burn this place to the ground." The little girl whimpered at his words. Elena's stomach twisted. Her brother's voice dropped low, almost pleading. "If you do that, they die with it, and you'll have their blood on your hands, Elena." Her name lingered in the air, heavy with history, heavy with love, heavy with warning. She wanted to scream, to tear the weight off her chest. Instead she whispered, "Why you, Daniel? Why are you here?" For the first time his composure cracked, his jaw tightened, his eyes glistened just for a second. "Because I made choices too, choices that can't be undone." Ortiz took a step forward, his rifle unwavering. "Enough riddles, you're coming with us, now." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No, if I go with you they'll never let me speak, and if you stay you'll see what they've been hiding from you all along." Keane's patience snapped. He lunged forward, aiming his rifle at Daniel's chest. "I said enough." "Keane," Elena shouted, grabbing his arm. "Don't." He turned on her, his face twisted in rage. "Are you seriously protecting him right now, after what he's done?" Her grip tightened. "I'm protecting us. He hasn't fired a shot." "Yet," Keane roared. His hands shook on the trigger. "This is exactly how people die, hesitating." The prisoners flinched at his voice, huddling closer together like shadows seeking safety. Elena's chest burned. She had to decide. She had to take control before the situation tore apart. "Keane," Ortiz snapped, his voice low, commanding, "stand down." Keane's nostrils flared. For a moment, Elena thought he'd pull the trigger anyway. But then, with a growl, he yanked back and lowered his rifle, though his glare never left Daniel. The silence after his retreat was deafening. Elena turned back to her brother. "If you want me to believe you, if you want me to trust you, then prove it. Let the prisoners go." Daniel's eyes locked on hers, so much unsaid between them, regrets, years, love twisted into suspicion. He shook his head. "It's not that simple." Her chest tightened. "It never is it?" For the first time his voice cracked. "I'm not the villain here, Elena. I'm just the one who stayed behind when everyone else walked away." The words sliced through her, because somewhere in them she heard the boy he used to be, the boy who'd carried her books to school, who'd whispered through the pipes when the world felt too heavy, who'd promised he'd never leave her. Ortiz's voice was steady but grim. "We don't have time for this. The enemy will be here any minute. If we're going to move, it's now." Elena's head spun, her brother's plea, the prisoner's eyes, her orders echoing in her skull. Save the mission or save them. Both paths bled with betrayal. She whispered, almost to herself, "What kind of soldier am I if I can't even protect the innocent?" Keane snapped back instantly. "You're the kind that gets the job done. That's what keeps people safe in the end." Elena turned on him, fire in her voice. "No, that's what keeps command safe, not people." The room went still. Even Ortiz didn't have a quick answer to that. Daniel's expression softened. "You've always known the difference." Her chest shook. Tears threatened, but she blinked them away. She couldn't break, not now. A sound cut through, the heavy thud of boots echoing from the tunnel behind them. Enemy reinforcements. Time was gone. Ortiz barked, "Decision, Elena, now." The world narrowed to one moment, one choice. Her brother staring at her, desperate. Her team waiting, weapons ready. The prisoners shivering in chains, silent prayers in their eyes. Every heartbeat was a drum inside her skull. Then her decision came, not clean, not easy, but hers. She raised her rifle, not at Daniel, not at Keane. At the chains. The shot cracked like thunder, sparks flew, metal shattered. The prisoners gasped, stunned, as their shackles clattered to the ground. Daniel's eyes widened, not in triumph, not in victory, but in something far heavier, something like sorrow. Keane roared, "What the hell are you doing?" Ortiz moved between them, his own shock muted, controlled. He didn't stop her, he didn't help her, he just watched. Elena fired again and again. Chains fell, shackles broke. Prisoners stumbled free, clutching their raw wrists, eyes wide with a hope they hadn't dared to feel. She lowered her rifle, chest heaving. Her voice was steady, resolute. "If I burn this place to the ground, it won't be with them inside it." For the first time, Daniel's lips curved, not in a smile, not in victory, but in the faintest trace of relief. But behind it, Elena saw something else, something darker. A knowledge that this choice had just chained her to a truth she couldn't escape. The boots in the tunnels grew louder, shouts echoed, weapons clattered, the enemy was almost here. Ortiz snapped into motion. "Move the civilians, get them out." Keane glared at Elena, betrayal etched deep in his face. But he didn't stop her as she rushed forward, guiding prisoners toward a side passage. Daniel lingered, eyes locked on hers. "You've chosen," he murmured, "but you haven't seen the cost yet." And then, like smoke, he melted back into the shadows before Ortiz could grab him. The chamber erupted into chaos. Prisoners stumbling, soldiers shouting, enemy boots thundering closer. And Elena, heart pounding, throat raw, realized her brother was right. The cost was coming. And it would break her. How do you carry people who don't trust you, through a fire that wants them all dead? That question hammered Elena's chest as the prisoners shuffled forward, weak legs stumbling, chains clattering against the concrete. The tunnel air was damp and close, thick with the stench of rust and mildew. Every sound echoed, their boots, the groans of the weak, the muffled sob of a child. And behind it all, growing louder, enemy shouts, boots pounding, rifles clattering. "Move," Ortiz urged, steady but sharp, guiding the group down the narrow passage. His flashlight beam swung wildly across walls slick with condensation. Elena kept to the middle, helping an old man who could barely lift his feet. His skin was paper-thin, his breath shallow. Every few steps he stumbled. Every stumble sent pain lancing through her already burning shoulders. Keane stalked at the rear, rifle raised, fury radiating off him like heat. His voice hissed forward, "You've doomed us all." Elena ignored him, focusing on the old man's trembling weight against her. But his words sliced anyway. "You think you're righteous. You think breaking chains makes you a hero. Guess what, Lieutenant? Heroes get people killed." She bit down hard, jaw aching. Her eyes stung, but she didn't answer. She couldn't, not with the little girl watching her, eyes wide, trusting, terrified. Ortiz slowed, raising his fist. The column halted. Silence pressed heavy. From ahead, voices. Enemy patrol, flashlights flickering against a corner bend. Ortiz whispered, "Hide them." Elena scanned fast. A rusted maintenance alcove gaped in the wall, half collapsed but big enough. In here. They hurried the civilians inside, crouching low, pressing against one another in the shadows. The little girl clutched her mother's arm, trembling. Ortiz and Keane flanked the tunnel, weapons ready. Elena crouched with the prisoners, rifle across her lap, breath held. The enemy patrol passed, 3 men, chatting low in a language Elena didn't fully understand. Their flashlights swept dangerously close, beams grazing the alcove. Dust trickled down onto Elena's neck. Her heart pounded so hard, she thought it would give them away. Then one soldier paused. His light swung back. He frowned, stepping closer. The little girl whimpered. Elena's hand shot out, covering her mouth, whispering silently with her eyes, "SHHH." The soldier leaned in, raising his rifle. Ortiz's silenced shot dropped him instantly. His body crumpled without a sound. The other 2 spun, but Keane's shots cut them down before a cry could escape. The tunnel fell silent again, save for the rapid breaths of terrified civilians. Ortiz checked the bodies quickly, then motioned them forward. "Go, faster." They moved, urgency doubling. But every step was heavier for Elena. The old man collapsed finally, legs giving way. She dropped beside him, pulse racing. "I can't," he wheezed, shaking his head. His eyes closed, lips dry. Elena gripped his shoulders, desperation in her voice. "Yes, you can, just a little more." Keane snarled from behind, "Leave him." Her head snapped around. "What?" "You heard me." His face was hard stone. "He's dead weight. We're dragging corpses at this point. Every second we waste, the enemy closes in." Her chest flared. "He's a human being." "He's a liability," Keane barked. "Orders or no orders, survival means sacrifice. You don't save everyone." The word stabbed. Ortiz's voice cut in, calm but sharp. "Keane, enough." But Keane's glare stayed locked on Elena. "This is your mess. You made this choice. So look him in the eye and tell him you're not willing to leave others behind for him." The old man's eyes fluttered open, cloudy but aware. He looked at her, not with pleading but with something gentler. Acceptance. Elena's chest shook, tears burned her eyes. "I won't," she whispered. She heaved him onto her back, ignoring the fire in her muscles, the scream in her spine. "We all walk out." Keane muttered a curse but didn't fight her further. His silence was worse than words. They pressed on. The tunnel widened, opening into a subterranean reservoir chamber. Water dripped from pipes above into a stagnant pool. The air was colder, reeking of mold. Shafts of light slanted in from vents high above, but the exits were barred with rusted grates. Ortiz frowned, scanning. "This isn't on the map." "That's because you're following their maps," a voice echoed. Elena froze. From the shadows, Daniel. He stepped into the faint light, hands raised, weapon holstered. His eyes flicked to the freed prisoners, then back to her. "You chose them," he said softly. Her chest tightened. "Was I wrong?" His expression darkened, conflicted. "No, but now you carry them, every step, every life. Their survival is your burden." Keane spat. "He's leading us straight into a trap." Ortiz kept his rifle steady. "Why are you here?" Daniel's gaze lingered on Elena. "Because the path you're on doesn't lead out. It leads deeper. And if you go deeper, none of them leave alive." Elena's breath hitched. "Then show us," she said. Ortiz tensed. "You can't be serious." She cut him off. "We don't have a choice. He knows this place better than we do." Keane threw up his hands. Unbelievable. But Daniel was already moving, gesturing toward a narrow drainage tunnel at the far end. "That way. It bypasses the patrol routes." The prisoners hesitated, eyes flicking between captor and savior, unsure. But Elena urged them forward, her voice steady. "Trust me." They moved again. The drainage tunnel was tighter, forcing them to crouch, wade through ankle-deep water. The walls closed in, dripping, echoing with each step. The smell of rust and rot was suffocating. Daniel led in silence, his figure a shadow ahead. Ortiz watched him like a hawk. Keane muttered curses under his breath, every word a knife at Elena's back. But through it all, the prisoners trudged forward, their fragile hope resting on Elena's shoulders. Finally, the tunnel opened into a larger chamber, an old ventilation shaft. A ladder stretched upward into darkness. A faint draft whispered down, cool, carrying the scent of open air. "Freedom." Daniel turned to Elena. "This is as far as I go." Her heart clenched. "Come with us." His eyes softened, then hardened again. "I can't. My fight isn't out there, it's here." Ortiz's voice was sharp. "What fight? What are you really part of?" Daniel's silence was louder than words. He only looked at Elena. "You'll understand soon." Then he stepped back into the shadows, vanishing before Ortiz could move. "Elena," Ortiz started, but the pounding of boots echoed behind them, cutting him off. Enemy shouts, "Closer." "No more time." "Up," Elena barked, "go." The prisoners climbed, one by one, slow, trembling, desperate. Ortiz covered, weapon ready. Keane muttered angrily but helped push civilians onto the rungs. Elena waited till last, her body screaming, her mind torn. As she reached for the ladder, her fingers brushed something carved into the metal. Words, scratched deep, almost invisible. "I see you." Her brother's code. Her stomach dropped. The enemy's shouts grew louder, closer. The air thickened with dread. And Elena realized this wasn't just escape. This was another choice, another test. One that would decide whether she could live with herself or not at all. The ladder groaned under the weight of desperate hands. One by one, the civilians clawed upward, shoes slipping on rust, palms slick with sweat. Ortiz steadied the base, his rifle ready, eyes darting between shadows. Keane stood a few paces back, jaw clenched, muttering curses as if they could drown out the shouts closing in from the tunnels. Elena brought up the rear, every nerve raw, body aching under the strain. The little girl looked down from halfway up, wide eyes searching her face. Elena forced a smile, small but steady. "Keep climbing, don't look back." But she couldn't stop looking back herself. The tunnel mouth glowed faintly with approaching light. Enemy flashlights bobbing, voices shouting, boots pounding closer. Her heart pounded. Ortiz barked, "Faster." The last civilians clambered onto the ladder, shaking with exhaustion but climbing still. The shaft stretched high above, disappearing into black. At the top, faint moonlight leaked through a grate, a promise of open air. Freedom dangled there, so close, so fragile. "Elena," Ortiz snapped, "go." She reached for the rungs. Her muscles screamed. Every scar, every bruise from the night pressed into her bones. Then a gunshot cracked. Sparks showered from the wall. The enemy had arrived. Shouts echoed, harsh and sharp. Flashlights cut across the chamber, rifles raised. Keane fired first, a sharp burst that dropped one soldier before he cleared the tunnel mouth. Ortiz followed, precise, calm under fire. Muzzle flashes strobed the chamber with chaos. The ladder shook with frightened civilians. Screams echoed. "Keep climbing," Elena shouted. Her voice cut through gunfire, raw with desperation. But more soldiers poured in, too many. Elena dropped low, returning fire, bullets sparking against concrete. Her rifle bucked, hot brass clattering into the water below. But for every enemy that fell, two more pressed forward. Keane cursed, "We're boxed in, we can't hold this." Ortiz's jaw clenched, "We just need time." Then across the chamber, another burst of gunfire, but not at them, at the enemy. Figures crumpled, Shouts turned to screams. Confusion tore through the soldiers. And from the shadows, Daniel. He moved like a phantom, rifle precise, cutting down enemies with surgical bursts. His face was calm, eyes burning. He stepped between them and the civilians without hesitation, firing until the magazine clicked empty. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Elena's chest cracked open. Daniel. But he wasn't looking at her. His eyes swept the civilians on the ladder. Then he turned back toward the tunnel mouth, reloading, shoulders squared. "Climb," he ordered. His voice was low, steady, carrying weight no one could argue with. The battle raged again, bullets ricocheting, shadows flashing, shouts rising. Elena's breath caught as Daniel stepped forward, shielding them, firing with grim precision. Each motion was clean, controlled. But there was something in it, a finality, a choice already made. She knew. "Daniel, no," she started, but Ortiz yanked her toward the ladder. "Go now." She fought him, tears cutting through soot on her face. "We can't leave him." "We'll all die if we don't," Ortiz barked. Keane's voice cut like a knife. "He's already gone, look at him." And Elena did. Daniel stood like a wall, bullets sparking off concrete near his head, rifle barking until the last round was spent. He drew a sidearm, firing until smoke curled from the barrel. His face was calm, too calm. He wasn't climbing. He wasn't coming with them. "Elena," Ortiz snapped, "climb." Her chest tore in two. The little girl's scream from above jolted her. The civilians were almost at the top, hands clawing for the grate. They needed her. Her choice mattered. Every instinct screamed to run to her brother, to drag him with her, to save him like she'd promised herself since the day he vanished into this darkness. But his eyes met hers across the chaos, dark, steady, final. He shook his head once. And she understood. He wasn't asking her to save him. He was asking her to save them. Her throat burned as she grabbed the rungs, pulling herself up. Higher, faster. Each step away felt like betrayal, like her heart was being carved from her chest. Below, Daniel's voice thundered through the chamber one last time. "Go live." Then the roar of gunfire drowned everything. Elena climbed until her arms screamed, until her fingers bled, until the grate above was within reach. Ortiz shoved it open, cool night air flooding down like a blessing. The civilians scrambled out into the grass, collapsing beneath the stars. Elena hauled herself up last, lungs heaving, tears streaming unchecked. Ortiz pulled her through, slamming the grate shut behind them. Keane emerged after, face pale, fury burned to ash. For a moment they lay there under the open sky, the air fresh and sharp, the stars endless. The world outside felt impossibly wide, impossibly alive. But the tunnel below still echoed with gunfire, shouts, explosions, the sound of one man holding back a flood. "Daniel." Elena's body shook, racked with sobs she couldn't contain. The little girl crawled to her, wrapping small arms around her waist. Elena held her tight, clinging as if the child's heartbeat could anchor her own. Ortiz crouched nearby, eyes heavy, watching the horizon. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Keane sat apart, staring at nothing, jaw set, a tremor in his hands. His voice, when it came, was hollow. "You got what you wanted, Lieutenant. Hope. At what cost?" Elena's voice was ragged, breaking. "At every cost." The civilians huddled together, whispering prayers, sobbing into the night. For them, this was salvation. For her, it was a wound that would never close. She tilted her head back, staring at the stars until they blurred. Her chest rose and fell with shuddering breaths. Somewhere below, her brother's voice still echoed in memory. "Go live." She had obeyed, and it broke her. But as the little girl's tiny hand tightened on hers, Elena understood. Daniel hadn't died to save himself. He had died to give them a chance, to give her a chance to be more than a soldier following orders. He had given her the weight of life. And now she had to carry it. The horizon brightened faintly with the first light of dawn. Birds stirred in the trees. The world moved on, uncaring, unstoppable. Elena stood slowly, knees weak but locking firm. She looked down at the survivors, then at Ortiz. Her voice was quiet but steady. "We move." Ortiz nodded once. Keane didn't respond. He just stared at the ground, hollow eyes reflecting a war he couldn't win. Elena turned toward the rising sun. Her brother was gone, but his choice lived on in her, in the people she had carried through fire, in every fragile breath they took under this open sky. And for the first time, she realized that being a soldier wasn't about orders. It was about carrying the unbearable weight of hope and refusing to set it down, even when it broke you.